over to my colleague from Impact Hub, Alexa, to start things off. So Alexa, over to you.
All right. Thank you all for taking the time to join us this evening as we talk about failure as an entrepreneur and how to overcome it. My name is Alexa, and I work with Impact Hub Kigali in the Community and Events Department. It is my absolute honor to welcome you all on behalf of the entire Impact Hub Kigali team to the Overcoming Failure event. Tonight's session is an opportunity to engage in a conversation around a topic that is more often than not excluded out of conversations with entrepreneurs. However, we noticed it is a common experience for entrepreneurs, regardless of where they're from, to face failure moments along the entrepreneurial journey. In essence, failure and success for entrepreneurs can be regarded as two inseparable twins. Winston Churchill said it best: success is working from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. At Impact Hub Kigali, therefore, with our mission to serve the community, facilitate collaboration, and drive positive and sustainable change to be the home to the innovators, dreamers, and entrepreneurs who are generating practical solutions to the world's most pressing concerns. We saw this event as a great opportunity to continue supporting entrepreneurs fully on their journey by engaging them on both the failure and success conversations. For those who are not familiar with who we are at Impact Hub Kigali, we are part Innovation Lab, business incubator, and social enterprise community center, offering a unique ecosystem of resources, inspiration, and collaboration opportunities to grow positive impact. You can learn more about us by visiting our website and checking out our different social media handles. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Claire again from the International Trade Center to further welcome us into this session and tell us more about the YET community and how you can become a member if you aren't already. Once again, welcome.
Cool. Thanks, Alexa. And yeah, super happy to be here. As mentioned, my name is Claire Sterngold. I work at the International Trade Center, which is a joint agency under the World Trade Organization and the United Nations. I'm based in Geneva, Switzerland. And within the ITC, I work specifically on youth and trade, which, as the name sounds, we're specifically supporting youth entrepreneurs as well as the stakeholders in the ecosystem that support them. For everyone's knowledge, we consider youth to be between 18 and 35, but once you pass that threshold, no worries. We have plenty of ways to keep you engaged as either a business mentor or through our various other networks supporting youth entrepreneurship. I oversee the YET community, which is a free-to-use platform for young entrepreneurs. You can join from anywhere around the world and get access to this network of mentors. You can directly message other youth entrepreneurs from around the world. You can also tap into a number of events like the one we're here with today and opportunities. So I highly encourage everyone who is not on that platform to join so you can stay tuned in to other relevant awards, events, opportunities that may come up. I won't take too much of your time. I'll post more about the YET community in the chat. And yeah, happy to be here and really looking forward to hearing from our special guests today. So thanks, Alexa. I'll pass it back to you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Claire. And now I would also like to welcome Aline, our moderator for the fireside chat with our special guest tonight, Yusuf Nwali, the co-founder and CEO of Bag Innovation, Kevin Kagirimundu, the co-founder and CEO of Zurich NY, as well as Dominic Alonga, the founder and CEO of Imagine Rwanda. Aline, please.
Thank you, Alexa.
Aline, you're muted. There we go.
Sorry. Yeah. Thank you, Alexa. Thank you to everyone, and thank you to our speakers. Today it's an amazing opportunity to host our special guest, Dominic Alonga, founder of Imaginary, Kevin Kagirimundu, co-founder of Uzuri, Yusuf Nwari, co-founder of Bag Innovation, where today they are going to share with us about their journey as entrepreneurs. But before we start, we are aware that part of our audience are not familiar with what you do. So please introduce yourself in more details, tell more about your business, and you're going to share with us in one sentence one biggest failure you have faced up to date. So we are going to start with Dominique, then Yusuf, and then Kevin.
Oh, wow. You started with me.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
I like your
Hi,
story.
Aline. Yeah,
Hi.
this is a very tough question. I'm going to work out some internet issues and then switch on the video. Hopefully, I'll have the video on as the meeting continues. It's an absolute honor for me to be part of this. I think this is it's a very authentic and needed conversation.
So while we are
my
waiting,
name is
maybe
Dominica Longa.
okay,
Yeah.
go on. Dominique, you can go on.
Sorry. Thing can be something. Yeah, so my name is Dominica Longa. I'm the founder of Imagine We. We are turning 7 in January, so we're 6.5 now. I'm very proud of that. The first failure phase, right? That's the question.
Yes.
Yes. This is very touchy, but I would say going through a lot of money in the first 6 months of.
Can you repeat again, because we can't hear you?
I think she's dropped off, unfortunately. I think she's having internet problems.
Oh, okay, maybe we can go on with Yusuf, who's the next, and then we come back with Dominique. Yusuf, you're welcome.
Sure. Thanks, Aline. Yes, I'm super excited to be here as well. Alongside Kevin and Dominique, again doing amazing work here in Kigali. So my name is Yusuf Hamad. I'm a Rwandan entrepreneur, one of the co-founder of Bag Innovation. So Bag is an platform. Is an edtech platform that my co-founder and I basically have a dream to create the future of career development. So we want to see more young people graduating from university and being able to get into employment in a very smooth manner. So therefore, we're using technology such as gamification to enhance that experience and create a platform where students can get connected and exposed to employers before they graduate, so they can apply what they're learning in theories with practical experience that is needed on the job market. That is a bit short about Bag. And I think the next, I was supposed to talk about a failure.
Yes, in one sentence, one biggest failure you have faced so far.
One biggest failure. I mean, obviously there are so many, but if I was to pick one right now, would be juggling a lot of things at an early stage of my business. I would say that was a very big failure.
Okay, thank you so much. And then we can go on with Kevin. Then we will come back with Dominique once she's available. Kevin, you can share with us. I mean, you can tell us more about you, about what you do, and then your failure.
Great. Thank you so much, Aline, for a great introduction. My name is Kevin Kajimundu. I'm one of the co-founders of Zurich NY. Zurich NY is an African-inspired eco-friendly footwear brand established here in Rwanda since 2013 with a vision to brand Africa as an origin of sustainable fashion items on the global market and a mission to craft fiber solutions to recycle waste into functional products. And today, we're operating a production facility for retail stores locally and have expanded throughout Africa in a very tiny way, but really significant one. And we're working so hard to make sure that it's very sustainable. I would say that one of the failures that we faced at the very early stage and we're still facing today is the failure in a form of rejection, where people think your business model is not the right one. Maybe it's not going to be needed in the next few 5 years, perhaps. But we stay so keen on that what we're doing is very needed and very important in our communities. So, but I want to share on how people actually have rejected us later on and how we think that what we're doing is so important to the existing communities that we're serving today. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. We can't wait to learn more from that. Then we can go back to Dominique if she's back. Dominique?
Yeah,
Hello?
sorry guys, I'm the internet to be very funny.
Okay, sorry for that.
Yeah, I was very clearly telling you, founder of this. Oh, as the founder of my business was to try to run the financials of my business alone at a very young age.
Okay, so trying to run the financials of your business while you were still young, that was your failure. Hello? Hello?
I think she's dropped off again, unfortunately. I think she's having connectivity problems, so.
Okay, we can then keep on going. Then she's going to be joining later on. So as we know, great business idea come from addressing problem or obstacles our community are facing day by day, which is one of the inspiration to start the ventures for some people. Can you share with us, if we can start with Yusuf, what was like the inspiration to start Bag Innovation, especially that you mentioned that you wanted for every person who graduates from university to be able to get a job. What has inspired you to start to kind of address the challenge those youth face before they find jobs, or maybe so that they do not even find jobs?
Sure thing. Thanks for the question, Aline. What inspired Bag Innovation? I think it's really a combination of a lot of things. I mean, when you're a young person in any part of Africa, when you graduate from school or anywhere, everyone is looking for a job, right? So you know, myself graduating and looking at the environment and looking at my siblings, friends, family, everyone, you know, not being able to get into jobs really got me thinking about, okay, what are some of these challenges, you know, that they're facing on the market? Why isn't there enough jobs for everyone? But also at the same time, when I met my co-founder, you know, randomly at a networking event, very funny, we basically just started brainstorming around different business ideas to start in Rwanda. And one of the biggest challenges that was there when we started speaking to entrepreneurs and people who are running businesses, one of the first things that they mentioned was the lack of access to talent, right? So businesses are struggling to find entry-level talents to be able to hire into companies. And that got us very curious about the problem. So we started speaking to educators, universities, young people to try and come up with a solution for that kind of problem. And yeah, so by really, really studying and being passionate about what was happening and having an experience myself of that problem, you know, it really inspired to Bag Innovation to what it is right now.
Thank you so much, Yusuf. I think that was a good start or a good way to approach the problem. And then we can go on with Kevin. Kevin, you have like a fashion company, if I may say, which is also addressing the climate change, or maybe like recycle, something like that, from the way you have said it. So can you share with us what was your inspiration? What were you trying to address when you started Uzuri?
I'm so sorry, Aline. Good question. When we started Uzuri KNY, it was really founded from what I can call justifiable frustration, because at university, as we're studying, we just looked at everyone and we're like, who is going to hire as creative designers? Because we're doing environmental builds and creative designs with my colleague. And then we realized that we're actually one of the lucky ones among our communities, because we're at the university at the time, and just thinking that there are people who never had the opportunity, especially women. When I went to high school, I was part of a girls' school, Fawe Girls' School, and as you look at everybody, you're like, oh no, there are so many girls in school. And then when you get to university, there is nobody. Like, you're like, where are the girls? We're like three to five girls in a class, and we're just wondering how come we don't have more women or more girls in school. And then the problems go even bigger to the environment that we're living in today. So these are problems that are not really taken as seriously as we would love them to be taken as seriously. So we started thinking, if we want to really use our passion, which is something that we really wanted to do, what can we solve in our own communities and actually make it meaningful more than that? So we started recycling old car tires, and of course we're doing fashion here and there, but our business became more of a circular economy later on, without even us knowing that it was going to be that. So but our intention was to really solve two problems, which is the environmental crisis going on our continent and in Rwanda. When I speak about the environmental problem, people are like, oh, what is the environmental problem? Usually, because we do this on a daily basis, we travel to these places where landfills are actually old car tires are dumped in landfills, and sometimes they're actually dumped in areas that are inhabited by vulnerable populations, and you can see the effects itself. These are materials that are the most problematic sources of waste in the world, that sometimes become nurseries for mosquitoes, and they actually release carbon dioxide in the air, in the water that we drink. So it becomes a bigger problem that maybe no one cares about today, but it will be a bigger issue in the future. Then the problem number two that we're trying really hard to solve, I think it's very similar to Yusuf's business model, which is creating jobs in our communities. For us, we're really targeting underprivileged communities where young, especially women, are less likely to have the opportunity to go to school, and they have no skills. Actually, that's the main issue. It's not like they wouldn't find a job, but it's more like they can't be able to perform if they had that opportunity. So we try to remove that barrier. And so far, we have trained over 1,065 people with practical and soft skills at the same time. And 10 of them have actually created small businesses, which is something I'm really, really proud of.
Thank you so much, Kevin. That sounds so inspiring, not just the way you started creating your own job or maybe addressing the climate change, but also the way your brand is inspiring business in Rwanda, especially towards women. If Dominique is around and now we can hear from her, then she can share with us about her exciting journey, what has been her inspiration to start Imaginary.
Aline, she's messaged me on WhatsApp that she's trying to find a solution and apologizes that she's having a really bad internet connection, and she's going to keep trying, but so far she's unable to reconnect.
Okay, thank you so much for the update. We entrepreneurs face different challenges during our journey, and I would like to start from those challenges, asking Kevin about the challenge that she has been facing, especially when she was expanding Uzuri in East and West Africa, and how she overcome them. Kevin.
Thank you, Aline. I think one of the biggest challenges that we still face today is skilled labor that we're trying really hard to solve. And that I think that, I mean, all of you who are attending this maybe are somehow entrepreneurs or really trying to get somewhere, and when you're trying to learn more to understand what's going on in the world, you have to really put an aspect of education on everything, because it's the key to I would say that it's the key to ending poverty, because it's just a small thing of enlightening someone and helping them to get somewhere. And with that, that is the challenge that costs us a lot of money or even time to speak. It's really an issue that we have to solve ourselves. And that is, sometimes I'm like, that is so unfair. I feel like the government should have solved this issue. And at the same time, I'm like, you can't complain. You have to keep going, because if you don't solve these issues, you will not be able to move forward. So we start with that, and we set up, of course, our training program. And recently we were working on creating also an education technology, using education technology to educate these people. Also in our own, I would say, a team which is more educated. It has to be also trained through technology. And then another challenge is, of course, the infrastructure that is linked to technology. It's almost unavailable in Africa, so you have to really to invest much more. The same way an American wakes up and say, I'm going to set up an Amazon store, it's not the same way we do it in Africa or in Rwanda in general. So we have to think of how am I going to have my own website? And it's going to cost you more than $20,000, which is also unfair, because if you were to go to Amazon, it will cost you maybe 1% of that. So that becomes an issue. We, by the way, when I talk about all those issues, I'm not complaining at all, because we work really hard to overcome them. So today we're working with our summits to create our own platform that works in the whole world in the most beautiful way. And we're working with another international company to expand through franchising throughout Africa. So you find solutions, but the challenges are always going to be there no matter what you do, because some of them are more like threats, and they have been set up for many years, and you cannot control them. And of course, competition, if we're going to be literal, and there is always small issues like language barrier and much more that can really be an issue when you're trying to expand throughout the continent. But overall, you work hard, you don't complain, and you make sure that you are working to solving those issues as you go towards your vision. And as long as you stick on your vision, everything is going to be okay.
Thank you, Kevin. I think this is what entrepreneurs we need to hear so that we keep on going, especially during this hard time of COVID. Without further ado, let's continue with Yusuf. Yusuf, you said that you provide virtual internship to university students who are about to graduate so that they are prepared for their next job. So how are you helping those in rural place or in rural areas with no access to internet or digital tools? And what are the challenges you are facing in that process?
Great. Thank you very much, Aline, and for that question. Yes, I mean, so in our journey to kind of like provide, practical experience to students and young people, we face a lot of challenges, right? And we came up with the idea of virtual internship as one of the best ways to kind of like multiply and connect more young people to employment opportunities so that they can get exposed to real company tasks and get that experience that they need to be more employable on the job market. So that concept is a concept that we've been testing out for over the last couple of weeks and months to kind of see how that works. And obviously, when you talk about anything virtual, you need to have a device and you need to have internet, right? And when we're talking about, I think COVID-19 has kind of showed the world that education technology is the future of learning, right? We need to start implementing digital tools in whatever that we're doing. As the population is growing, we can build more classrooms, but we can make our platforms more accessible for a lot of people. But then how do we solve the problem of connectivity? So the problem of connectivity definitely still huge. We're still looking into different ways to be able to solve that problem. But one of some of the ideas that we've been talking to with the different education institutions, but also as well as the Ministry of Education, is how can we make our platform available in computer labs in various different universities where we want to scale our platform. But also at the same time, we've been in talks with a company from Singapore that is building technologies that can help platforms, people be able to access platforms and without or with limited internet connectivity. So that's a concept that we're still trying to see how that would work and see how we can actually implement that in Rwanda and see and make sure that people are accessing these kind of technologies, but obviously getting inspiration from education technology platforms or companies in Kenya, such as Mshule, that is using USSD code to make sure education is available for people. So, I mean, we're really, really trying to learn as much as we go. Connectivity is a huge challenge. If you speak to the Minister of ICT here in Rwanda and try to talk about the challenges of entrepreneurship, the first thing that she's going to say is going to be, hey, we're still trying to make sure that every single Rwandan has access to a phone and has internet. And, so it's really about partnership. It's really looking at how can we build technologies with very, very little resources to make sure that our solutions are accessible and are in the hands of as many people as possible that we want to impact. So it's really about partnerships and learning as we go. I hear a silence, but I hope that answers your question, Aline.
Okay. Yeah, yes, it does. I just lost you for a bit, but thank you so much. You just mentioned about USSD code, and I know that more than 78% of Rwandans have access on their cell phone, so which means that that could be a good technology to address that challenge that you are facing. And so in the beginning, we started mentioning about failure, and this session is actually about failures. So you are going to have the opportunity to share again about the failures, but more on what inspired you to overcome those failures, or maybe to rise up from those failures. We are going to start with Kevin, who mentioned about her failure on, she was mentioning something about rejection, and she wanted to share more about those rejection and how she has been handling them. So Kevin, you can take over and then share with us about your failures in more details.
Thanks, Aline. I'm really happy that this is about failure, not success. Usually people call me for, can you share a success story? Can you tell us about how you made it in Africa? There's an article that they wrote about Uzuri recently about how we made it in Africa. I think 2 articles now. And people have been calling me about that. And I'm like, no, we're not going there. So thank you for taking us in this on this journey. And I really want to engage also our audience, and maybe later they will be engaged. And I just want to ask a question: if anyone has gone through a major failure in general, and how they have been able to handle it in general. So I remember when we started Uzuri, before we even start, we had ideas, we have sketchbooks, we have, I mean, the investment you can have, and one of my most important mentors have told me before is, you are young. So I didn't think I needed money before. I didn't think I needed to raise millions of francs, not even millions of dollars, millions of francs to be able to start my business. And I remember asking my brother if he would invest in my company, and he only needed 600,000 francs. And he said, no, I can't do that, but I can probably pay for your school fees somewhere in India. And I'm like, I don't know if I really want to go to India. I don't see my future in India. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to make it easy for you. Give me 200,000 francs. And he said, no, I'm not going to do that. So that really sent me back to a point, but I still loved my brother. I still love him. He's my biggest supporter today. But then I went back to my own bed and started thinking, what can I do? I had 60,000 francs. That's $100 of the time. At the time, actually, was even, the value was way less than that. Today is really not that much money. And I went to the market, bought a sewing machine, put it in my room, and started learning how to sew. I went to creative designs and environmental builds for a purpose to learn industrial design. none of that was part of my curriculum on a daily basis. We were just learning about design and what it can solve in general. But there's an important lesson that I learned from that. It's design is a problem-solving process. And that really carried me through my journey of studying Uzuri KNY, because I learned that my creativity in general can really help to solve some of the problems that we're facing today as communities, and especially the most vulnerable communities in the world. And we can find some of them in Rwanda. So I went down to the street, started talking to people, how they do things. In the beginning, I was everywhere. I attended more than 10 accelerators at the time. I was going to school and coming back from there, going to accelerators, going to work at the same time. I don't think I slept for I think I was sleeping for 4 hours a night because I was almost everywhere. Of course, there was no COVID, so thank God for that. But still, I took my time to really study, learn people, understand what it is exactly to raise money and how it's done. In 2 years through running Uzuri, we actually raised an investment, a minor investment, which helped us to grow further. But the failure really started at the beginning of being told that what I'm doing. I remember my brother then asked me, who are your customers? And I remember thinking, my friends are my customers. And I answered that just without even thinking. And he said, but your friends don't have money. They're like you don't have money. And I was like, but they will have money in the future. And I guarantee you that today, I would look at some of our customers and today they could be my friends. They're probably not my friends, but they're our customers and they're the same age as me. They're earning money. And I did not let my brother's speech really get to me. I continued doing it because I knew that the millennials, working women would be my customers no matter what. I defined that later on, of course, but I learned that you can't just say that people are going to be your customers without doing research. Just my point is that throughout the rejections and the failures and the thing that we go through on a daily basis, we have to pick 1 or 2 lessons that we get from there and use it to grow our own businesses so that the failure doesn't really consume us and stop us from getting to our vision.
Thank you, Kevin. And Yusuf, you mentioned something about juggling around many things in your company as one of your failure. So can you tell us more about how was that journey like, and what inspired you to keep on going, and how strategically did you manage to get your business grow that now you could have employees who help you around?
Sure thing. Beautiful story, Kevin, there. Thanks for sharing that. But yeah, my story, I think, and I'm hoping that all the entrepreneurs on the call right now are going to maybe relate to it in some way. Basically, when you start a company, you're all excited because it's like, oh, there's a problem. Oh, I'm going to come up with a solution, become the next Steve Jobs, bam, right? It's super easy in your head. 2 months in, then the rent, they start asking for the rent, and it's like you don't have any customers, and then you're like, okay, I didn't think it was gonna be that hard. So you start facing those challenges, and what happens is that since you're out there, you're putting yourself out there, and you have some kind of skill that a lot of people are looking at, you can kind of so you start getting all these opportunities, right? So people start calling you up because they want to offer you full-time jobs. And they're just flooding into your emails like, hey, here's an opportunity, work with us. So, and then as a young person, trying to build a company, it's very easy to kind of be like, oh, okay, let's go for the easy money. Why not? And you can kind of like get caught up in those things. So I myself was like that. So the early stage of my company, I started getting approached by lots of companies to kind of work with those companies as a consultant. But then I thought it was going to be, okay, great, no worries. I can just put that on my schedule, just make sure that I'm working even on the weekends just to get the work done, right? So I can earn money from this while I'm building something that I'm really passionate about, right? One of the biggest challenges that came up was I hadn't learned how to manage my time properly, right? You can kind of realize that one thing that I'm realizing right now is that time is the biggest asset that anyone has in the world. It's like your time. If you had 48 hours in a day, you can do a lot more things, right? So when you really think about it that way, you start valuing your time and you start prioritizing things. So I got involved with working at a consulting job that was full time, and then I was working on my company in between. And then at the same time, I started another company as well. And then this company really required me to be there all the time. And then so one of the days that I realized that this was actually a mistake was when I was working at this consulting job, and then one of my clients called me, and then I picked up the phone. I didn't know the number. I said, "What's up? Who is this?" And then they say, "Hey, I think we had a meeting in about 10 minutes ago. Are we still meeting?" And in my head, I was like, I was leaving job to go home and sleep, right? But then I had all of a sudden forgotten that I had this meeting with this client, right? And that's when I realized I was like, you are doing something wrong, right? Look at your priorities. What are you actually valuing? Are you valuing money, or are you valuing this company that you really are passionate about? And that's when I realized I was like, now to be able to grow a company, you need to actually sit down and just focus on that company and whatever it takes. Like take care of your ugly baby. Like love your ugly baby, right? Because we all run away because we're like, oh my God, it's too stressful. But you need to fall in love with that, because there's no other way that you're gonna make that baby beautiful. If I can say it that way, if you don't actually spend time with that baby and cleaning up that baby, right? So one of the things is I would say is that what got me out of that was that realization of like, whoa, something has to be right here. But also at the same time, I spoke to a lot of people who, in the early stage of their companies, they also went through the same challenges. And those conversations really, really, were like a slap in the face to like, hey, wake up and, start working on your company. And what I would say there is that, yeah, I think, yeah, I see somebody just wrote in the chat bar. Yes, love your ugly baby. If you're at early stages of business, like really, really just fall in love with the baby, because there is no other thing that would help you grow if you are not passionate about your business. And one other thing that I do believe that a lot of entrepreneurs need is they need that support system. They need entrepreneurs. When you really look at it, entrepreneurs just need people to talk to. Like that's it. Like they just need to talk about their challenges to other people who face those challenges. That's it. An entrepreneurship support group would help a lot of entrepreneurs with the challenges that we go through every single day. So yeah, that's a little bit about my failure. It was really that I'm not really focusing on my company, and watching a lot of things just fall, and being angry at my team while I'm the problem, and not necessarily my team. So yeah, so that's a little bit about my failure. Happy to elaborate a little bit more if need be.
Yeah, thank you so much, Yusuf. Starting a business at 19 and raising $100, I think that is a payoff to focus. And I think you are doing an amazing job. Unless Dominique is around to share with us in just 1 minute about her failure, then like how she recovered from it, then I can hand over the microphone or maybe the space to Alexa so that she can help around with the questions from the audience.
Yeah, we'll go straight to Alexa because unfortunately Dominique said she was unable to join and sends her apologies.
Okay, thank you so much, Kevin, Yusuf, and sorry, Dominique, that you couldn't join. Alexa,
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you so much.
Amazing. This was such a great conversation. Um, Getting to hear about your different failure moments and the different lessons you learned that were like sort of surprising, and you didn't think it would actually be something that you'd face on the journey. This was very insightful. Without further ado, I think it would be very great now that we go into the questions in the chat box. That our speakers have asked directly, that the audience has asked directly to the speakers.
I'll start with a question by Mapper. The question says, in your view, why is it important to speak and share stories of failures in an innovation and entrepreneurial ecosystem? Why is it not so common to speak about failures in our community, and how could we create more spaces for that? I will just repeat the question once again. In your view, why is it important to speak and share stories of failures in an innovation and entrepreneurial ecosystem? Why is it not so common to speak about failures in our community, and how could we create more spaces for that? I would open the floor to Kevin to start with answering this question, and then Yusuf can follow.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Alexa. I think it's important to speak about this so openly because as you may know, there's so many issues in the startup ecosystem in Africa in general, because when you Google startups in Africa, they will show you like the state of startups in Africa, and they'll tell you that most of them die really on their 5th year. And at some point, really very few of them get out of the death valley. I would call it that way. And when we speak about failure, when we talk about everything that we go through, it doesn't mean that you're at the point of dying, but it means that we're trying to get out of there, and we're trying to also be part of the companies that are raising $1 million or $200 million. Like recently we've had from, Nigeria and some of the companies in Egypt. So really it's about making sure that we share, we understand that we're not on our own. There are people who are going through the same, and I think Yusuf actually talked about it. Entrepreneurs, what they need is really to speak to the same people, to the people that they can relate to, and understand the problems, the issues, the challenges they're going through, and be able to say, how have you been able to overcome these issues? And that's why I think this is such an important conversation that we're having today. And I think really the Impact Hub for setting this up, because usually we talk about success and we talk about what things we're achieving the next 2 years, but we never talk about failure. And that's important for us entrepreneurs to go through this and understand that there are some other people who are going through the same things. So I cannot emphasize how much it is important for us to be able to speak about these issues, but also the failures that we're going through in our own communities. If I understand the question really well, is that there are so many challenges that the government is also trying to solve today. It's up to you to be part of the solution scheme, solution paradox, and say, ask actually questions and say, how can I help? How can I be part of the solution instead of being also part of the problem? When myself and Isolde were 20 years old, we started to think of creating a company. We were like, how can we get out of the victim side and join the problem solver side? It was the mindset then, and it's still the mindset today, of how we can be able to contribute with our own creativity, with our passions and our mindsets of really trying to change the communities that we live in to the better. So I would just suggest that we all go down there. If you come from any village in Rwanda, just go down there and ask the people what they need. And that's what entrepreneurship is about. It's always about, if you make people happy, if you ease someone's pain, at some point, someone somewhere will find a way to pay you for it, and you will make money. But the main goal is not really to make money, is to solve people's problems, ease their pain, and make sure that they are living a better, I think it's all about life, like they're living a better life in general. So that would be my comment on this.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Kevin. Yusuf, please go ahead.
Sure thing. Alexa, can you please repeat the question for me? Thanks.
Oh, sure, no problem. Just 1 second.
Sure.
Yes, the question says, In your view, why is it important to speak and share stories of failures in an innovation and entrepreneurial ecosystem? Why is it not so common to speak about failures in our community? And how could we create more spaces for that?
Sure, thanks. Yes, I mean, I would have to say because as entrepreneurs, I think it's a very lonely journey, right? It's you kind of feel lonely when you're being an entrepreneur because again, as Kevin has said in a very beautiful way, we're all you're going against all odds, right? It's like creating a business. Everybody's like, why don't you just get a job? Like, why are you even doing this thing, right? So just starting from there, that can kind of create a resistance when you actually go through a lot of obstacles because you don't want to share about them because you feel like you feel like a failure. Everyone will be like, yeah, I told you, just go get a job. You wouldn't feel those problems, right? So it's like, we become very like, okay, we don't actually want to talk about it because, we would feel like failures and we feel like we went the wrong way. And then we only want to celebrate. We only want to tweet about when, we are actually winning, but we're not really talking about what actually it took for us to get there, right? So when you really look at all the big businesses, to become billion-dollar companies, it didn't take them 2 years. Like when you really analyze, it took them 12, 15 years for them to get to where they are right now. And people only know them when they've already succeeded. So I feel like it creates a healthy kind of like environment for entrepreneurs, all kinds of entrepreneurs, early stage entrepreneurs, to kind of understand that, hey, yeah, everyone has gone through have made mistakes or has gone through a lot of these struggles. Like it does not mean that it's the end of the road. I think that's the most important thing why we should actually be talking about all these failures. Yeah, I've delayed to pay my taxes. It's not the end of the world, but it's gonna happen. But then, what did you actually learn from there, right? I delayed to come to an investor meeting, and then I lost that investor. Like, I've made that mistake, but then I know better, right, to not make that mistake. Or you can kind of share that with other people who might go through those problems as well, and they will know that, okay, maybe it's something to avoid. So I think it's really about how do we all come together and say, hey, I've gone through these mistakes, but then how can I talk about them so that help early stage entrepreneurs to not go through them or not suffer the same consequences that I have. I think it's really about that. And how can we do that? It's through platforms like this, creating conversations, obviously with that. We would love to have this conversation in person where we can all interact afterwards. But with COVID, we only have these platform, right, which is Zoom. Organizing more Zoom calls, creating more entrepreneurship clubs. I don't know, WhatsApp groups where people can just get on them and just talk and share the news. Or I have a lot of WhatsApp groups with a couple of entrepreneurs where you basically just type in, hey, who knows how to declare taxes of this specific sort? And like those kind of things where you can actually share resources and help each other. I think those are some of the ways. How can we think about the resources that we have to kind of create this platform? But kudos to Impact Hub and the Yay community for bringing us together to speak at this event as well.
Yes, absolutely. Everything you mentioned is absolutely right. Companies had to go, even the bigger companies had to go through failure before getting to where they are. But it's more often than not, that kind of conversation is kept out. Let's go to other questions. The other question is from Frank, and
Alexa, I received a private question. Can I share that one? I think it's an interesting question.
Okay, sure, no problem.
Oh, great. So Frank says that what could be the best strategy to rise up a startup company without being drowned by companies who are more established doing similar? Yusuf, do you want to actually answer that? I think that would be an interesting question for both of us to answer.
How can you rise up as a small company?
Pretty much about competition. It's there are other companies that are bigger doing that, and you're coming up as a new entrepreneur creating a startup. So what do you think?
There's so many ways to go about that, right? It's like fighting that big kid at school, right? It's like the David and Goliath kind of story. I think it's really about innovation, right? One of the ways that you can actually fight that is how can you make sure that they're dependent on you. All right. So, for example, for me, like I'm looking at every single companies that is in the ed tech world, but I'm looking at Coursera. I'm not scared that Coursera would come to Rwanda. I'm thinking about, okay, great. I want Coursera to actually come to Rwanda. I don't know. I mean, that will be a potential collaboration there. They will be able to acquire my company for tens of billions of dollars, right? That will be my exit. How can you create something that they would be dependent on you, right? You know that they can build technologies faster than you. They have way more money to be able to do that, but then they don't have the understanding of the local market as you do, right? We see a lot of companies try to come to Rwanda, doing something that a local company is doing, and then they fail, right? And then they end up realizing, okay, maybe we ran out of budget. Let's try another market. So I think it's really, really, if you can really understand the problem that you're trying to solve and find your niche market and of the people that you really want to serve and understand those people as well, I think that's your biggest selling point. It's not really the technology, because Google will always build better technology than you can, right? It's never going to be about that. It's going to be about how do you understand the local market better. Uber is there, but then there's Move, there's Yego cabs. It's like there's Jumia, and Uber Eats is there. But then Jumia, what made Jumia the most successful company, one of the most successful, I would say, relatively, is because they were where Uber could not get. They were able to use motorbikes to be able to deliver food in the deepest village somewhere in Lagos, right? So Uber cannot do that because they didn't understand that, oh, okay, there's no roads in Africa. It's like, you know,
Yeah.
so it's really understanding your market really good, that when they come in, instead of competing with you, they would see you as a partner, and make sure that they're dependent on you to be able to scale into that market and really build your brand, make a lot of noise so that by the time they come, it's like, okay, we see that you're the leading in your sector, and we want to talk to you. Like, we don't want to be, there's a new scandal in Kenya. I don't know if people are following that there's a French entrepreneur who started a company saying that Kenyans could not find where to find affordable food. And then he started a company and raised $1 million. And then Kenyans are saying, you're trying to solve a problem that we as Kenyans don't see as a problem. So it's like there's a lot of backlash when it comes to that. So understand your market better, and yeah, you'll be able to compete.
Yeah, thank you, Yusuf. I think that's a brilliant way to put it. And what to sum up what he says is that just find a way to look at these companies as collaborators, not as competitors, because they're way big. It's like today coming up with a smartphone with iPhone and Samsung. What are you going to do? Find a way to work with them and bring a difference, a uniqueness in your own brand or your own products. Make sure that you shine and you are you don't have to be the best in the world. You can be the best in your own village. And when they come, they will know there is somebody who's shining out there and they want to work with that person. Because smart companies, they're always going to look for that one person who solved an issue in one community, and they will want to pay you for that.
Brilliant answers to that question. Just to recap what you have mentioned, look at these companies as collaborators and not competitors. From Kevin, and also Yusuf mentioned, it's all about how you understand the market's needs, create something that they can depend on, and build your brand. Thank you very much for those brilliant responses. We will go to another question as we come to the end of the session with a few minutes that we have left. Let's answer another question that one of the people have asked. Jean Felix asked, what keeps you guys motivated or moving? Why things the market seems uncertain, like the current times of COVID-19? I could repeat the questions. The question, what keeps you guys motivated or moving while things or while the market seems uncertain, like the current times of COVID-19? Yusuf, would you like to start?
Sure thing. What keeps us motivated? I think it's the whole, what choice do you have? What choice do you have if you're not motivated? What am I gonna do, right? I'm 5 years into the entrepreneurship world, building this company, thinking about the company everywhere I go. What am I gonna do? Just shut it down and go to RDB and say, hey, I'm closing down the business. What am I gonna do? Go get a job. I think that's that's, if I was to answer that question in a very simple way, I think that would be it. It's like, what other choice do you have except from actually making it work? Because we face so many people who've told us that it's gonna fail, this is not gonna work, you're gonna try something else. It's like, at this point, it's becoming about also proving everyone that, hey, we can actually survive and we can actually make it, because we didn't start it out of nowhere. We actually started it with a purpose, and we're really passionate about this. I think that's really what keeps me going. And I mean, I don't know if you know, but COVID is very good for edtech companies, right? It's the breakthrough that we've been looking for. To the world to realize that education doesn't need a teacher in the classroom and some chairs, but you can actually access education from any device or different other ways as well. So I think COVID has been really good for us. Obviously, on the B2B side of things, it's very challenging. But when it comes to getting people, it's very easy for us, because that's where the need is there. And yeah, it's really about how bad do you want to solve the problem that you're solving, and that's really what keeps me going. And small wins as well, celebrating small wins. You just got a client. I mean, just cheer up and have everyone celebrate in the team. It's really motivating for you and the team as well to just feel like we're on the right track. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Alexa, for the question. I think the challenges that happened with 2020 and the COVID-19 pandemic blowing up, it was, I think it was really a wake-up call for so many entrepreneurs to rethink about their strategies. Of course, it was horrible for so many businesses that failed, that closed their businesses, that didn't make it throughout. But at the same time, if you were smart enough to think that you can survive through it, you would have to think of, how do I re-strategize? I remember the first time we went through the lockdown, I remember thinking, we have to come out of this lockdown with a new strategy. And it didn't even have to take me sitting down and writing down a whole pitch deck. It really took our staff members to sit down and join e-commerce platforms, and from home to home, everybody was in their homes, but taking pictures, putting them online and selling them and talking. Everyone who was working in sales, for example, was on social media speaking for everyone who says good morning, hi, which is something we never did before, but also reminded us that it's important for us to cater for the online audience and remain as vigilant as we are when we're offline. So it became a new thing. And I remember our e-commerce revenue, the Rwanda television came to see me at home, asking me about how have been your e-commerce revenue, because we're blowing up around the city, and we're really trying to make sure that people know that we're not dying. That was the main message back then. We're not dying, we're here, and we remain the servants of our customers, the existing ones and the ones that really need to join us. And that really helped us from growing our revenue on e-commerce from 3 to 14% by only focusing on the local market and using e-commerce as a major driver or a major tool to bringing in the revenue, generating the revenue. So it became a blessing in disguise in a way that people started really getting interested in learning more about us, visiting our website. Before, I used to check our website's visits, I'm like, oh, why are they so little? And now every time I trigger the real-time visitors, I'm like, oh, we have 5, 10, 12, 15, 20 people. The same thing we go through when we're selling offline. So it's really about caring about things that matter at the particular moment, and don't give up because the things you were holding on to are not coming with you in the new life. And I really like to say that the 2019 year, we believed that, which we thought it was going to be even better in 2020, is not going to come back. We're going to continue to live through uncertainty, to live through new ideas. EdTech is going to take over for sure. Today, one of my mentors recently told me any company should introduce themselves as a technology company today, because technology is going to be the driver, the tool that really helps companies to grow. And that's the route actually we're taking as well. So taking that decision has never, ever been a bad idea. And I would say that we started going through the e-commerce route since 2019. We joined the Alibaba Entrepreneur Program. I personally wanted to learn about e-commerce and how it can work. We got one of the companies locally to work on an e-commerce platform, which was okay. And today we're even growing further. After that, I was like, it's gonna take 5 years, but with COVID, it boosted the digital platforms and digital markets in general. So it's important to look at what's happening, assess it, and value it in your own business model. Find a way to link it together and maybe twist one or two things on your business model. Your investors are not going to be mad at all. Anyone who twists their business model today, I think it's the most allowed thing within the investors ecosystem today. Just tell them, I'm changing my company to be a technology company doing footwear in this manner, and they're going to understand. So it's how we took it, and I'm really glad we were able to do it. And we were able to grow 2 times in 2020, which is something that is unheard of, only because we focused on a local market and we used technology to reach them, because they were spending so much time online in that particular year. And till today, we're only alive because of the local market. If we were still focusing on tourism and people, who are not more than 1 million people coming into the country back then I don't think we'll be where we are today. So the idea of waking up and using what we had at that particular moment, the resources that we had, and making sure that we change 1 or 2 things in our strategy, it doesn't mean you diverge your whole strategy. It just means that we made sure to add and remove some of the things that were not important and add some of the most crucial things that were happening in that particular time, and we're able to survive until today. So that's what really motivates us to continue doing our business.
Beautiful. Indeed, remain resilient and remember why you started, as Yusuf mentioned, and that's what will keep you moving, as well as tweak your business model to be adaptive to the change in technology, as Kevin has mentioned. Would now just take one last question, which we can answer in 1 minute or less, so that we can close, being mindful of the 7 p.m. curfew here in Kigali for those who are not home yet. The last question says, do you have examples where a fear of potential failure has stopped you from implementing or pursuing something? Yusuf, please start us off.
Fear. This is a very tough one. Okay, let me read the question again. It's from Cares.
Yes. Do you have examples where a fear of potential failure, has stopped you from implementing or pursuing something? 30 seconds.
Yes, of course. Yeah, definitely. So I remember that I was trying to, I used to run an escape room here in Rwanda, one of the first escape rooms in the country. And we had to basically yeah, so we ran it for a couple of months, and then I had to stop running it. And then basically, I've always been passionate about games and designing games and that are related to problem solving, and I wanted to start that business again. But then my biggest fear was, for my past experience, the first experience was we ran it, but then we realized that the biggest target market was the expat community, or Mzungus, as we like to call them here. But then what we realized quickly was the biggest market that we should be targeting is the Rwandan market. But then to convince a Rwandan to spend, a group of Rwandans spend $50 to play a game and not go to a restaurant was really hard. So I wanted to invest into the business again, and then I was trying to find investors to be able to do that. But then one of my biggest fear was that I'm going to launch this company, but then how am I going to get Rwandans to start playing, this game that we're introducing, which is very new in the market. So that kind of stopped me, or it made me a bit lazy to start that business, because I was fearing that it was going to flop. But then COVID came in, and then it was a very good excuse for me not to start it anymore. But on top of my mind, that would be kind of like an example of where fear of what would happen if I launched this company made me not start it, actually. So yeah, I hope that gives a little bit of insight, Karis.
I hope that was that answered your question, Karis. Interesting story. I wish we could get to hear more about it. But Kevin, Yusuf took your seconds, so you have to wrap that answer in 20 seconds, and then we'll wrap up. Oh, you're muted.
I'm so sorry, Alexa. So I have less time now. I think, yeah, what I was saying, that I think fear is such an interesting feeling, because it makes you do things you never thought you would do. By the time my brother told me I can't do it, I started doing it. Actually, eventually, he found it so interesting. So he started thinking of how he can invest later on, and he couldn't, because the value of our company was way bigger than what he could afford. So always go through the fear with so much courage. I think the fear is the opposite of courage anyways, but the fear is more like a catalyst of courage for me. When I heard that I couldn't do stuff, I just carried on to do it anyways, because as a young person, you're stubborn, you have so much energy, you think you're unstoppable. So use that and make sure that it serves you in one way or another.
Awesome. Thank you very much once again, everyone, for joining us. This was an insightful conversation. As we close off, I would like to request that everyone turns on their camera if you can, and then we take a final, I might say, selfie or screenshot of all of us to mark this beautiful event as we start opening up conversations more around failure, and making it normal to the public that failure is actually something okay. It's something normal. It happens to everyone. I took a lot of notes, and I hope everyone also took notes. Awesome. I can see people have already started to switch on their camera. We will give it 3 more seconds to go, and then my colleague Claire will help us take the selfie, the screenshot. Sorry. All right.
Yeah, no problem. Just waiting. Guys, if you can, turn on your camera. We really love to see your face. So far, we don't see everyone. So maybe just like 20 more seconds if you can turn it on. I know it's using bandwidth. I'm sorry. All right. On 3 then. So 1, 2, 3. Nice. Great. Okay, perfect. Thanks, everyone. Got it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And I will now give it to Claire to close the event for us.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much to Kevin and to Youssef for taking time to be with us today. It was such an insightful conversation, and I love that Kevin, you just became our moderator for a minute there as well, taking charge. It was great. No, I loved it. I mean, this is supposed to be a fireside chat. You know, it's supposed to be young entrepreneurs talking to young entrepreneurs. So the more free flowing, the better. Yeah, thanks for sharing your insights. Thanks so much to Aline for moderating and the excellent job there, and for Alexa for hosting and Impact Hub. As Youssef mentioned throughout the discussion, entrepreneur communities where you can turn to just to ask a question on anything from taxes to, you know, where can I find someone who is a buyer for coffee, you know, like these kind of things. The Yay community can provide that for you. So I've posted the link to the WhatsApp group. The platform is also there if you're looking to connect with people across borders, but the WhatsApp group is specifically for youth entrepreneurs in Rwanda. So build those networks and yeah, seek out support, because failure is normal and it's part of the process. And that's what we're trying to normalize here. So thanks so much, everyone. And we look forward to hosting you all for the next Overcoming Failure Night. And that would be all from me. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Have a good evening.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good
Bye.
evening.
Thank you.